All right, kids. Full honesty here. Cards on the table. No takey backies. I used to think furries were weird. They've got all the weird mascot costumes. They've got entire websites full of people dressing up as wolves and foxes and dragons, talking about insanely strange fan fictions and, well, let's be honest, other weird stuff that we don't really want to get into in YouTube. It's very loud. It's extremely earnest. And it's very much part of the internet. And for a long time, I was right there with everybody else, laughing at it and thinking about how that's just some next level lameness. But if you saw my video about Cringe, you know what I've come to believe here. And that's Cringe is just sincerity without permission. And during 2020, when the world shut down and society labeled me as non-essential, I ended up strolling right into that world, half as a joke. And those weirdos turned out to be some of the people who helped pay my bills and feed my family. And that was important when I wasn't able to work. So now, in that last video, I'd said that every artist has to wade through a lot of cringe because that's where good stuff lives. The furry community never left that phase, and there's a lesson there because they're so much happier for it. They unironically love what they love. They don't tone it down to try to look cool. And that kind of shameless joy, man, it makes people uncomfortable. Because you're holding a mirror up to yourself. It forces you to see how much of you that you keep bottled up just to seem normal. And when you can't handle it, you laugh, you call it cringe, awkward, whatever. So when COVID, when it hit and tattooing stopped cold, I was stuck at home with a wife and a 2-year-old as the sole provider and a stack of bills that, well, didn't care about lockdowns. I couldn't see my clients, so I had no income. And it was just a lot of time really wondering how non-essential I was. So I started looking for ways to make any kind of income, anything that could help. I did art commissions, I did pet portraits, I did D&D characters, you know, all of the usual stuff that I would do. And it didn't really matter. You know, I ramped it up because I needed to keep us going. And in that panic and desperation and boredom, I ended up on furry websites. Now, full disclosure, I'd always been adjacent to the community. You know, being a nerdy kid on the internet in the early days, it was always there. But I never really reached out to them, so I thought, to hell with it. And half as a joke, I put up a post saying, hey, I'll draw your character. And I figured it'd be a ghost town, tumbleweeds, all of that. Maybe an awkward commission or two. And you know what kind of awkward commissions I'm talking about. But to be honest, man, my inbox blew up. People sent me reference sheets, which was new to me, story notes, and the biggest shocker is they were willing to pay up front. They were super polite about things, they were really organized, and almost every message started out with, hey, I hope you and your family are doing okay through all of this. And that floored me. While the rest of the world was panic buying toilet paper and screaming at politicians, these kids were reaching out to check on a total stranger. So for 2 straight months, those commissions, they helped pay my bills. They kept food in my fridge and literally fed my family. And I don't mean that that's not metaphor. That money put groceries on my table. When tattooing wasn't able to, the fur community stepped up. I went in there almost as a laugh, and honestly came out completely humbled. What really stuck with me, though, wasn't really the money. It was how generous and kind everyone was. They thanked me for taking the work. They tipped me. They reminded me that I needed to be kind to myself. If I needed to take an extra day, they were cool with it. And to be honest, that kind of grace, it's kind of rare online. Most art spaces can get pretty cutthroat. They can be kind of snobby. But this community was the total opposite of it. It was full of people who'd spent their whole lives being told they're too weird. So they built this place where nobody has to feel that way. And to be honest, if you make something for them, guess what? You're part of that space. No gatekeeping. You're just in. When you strip away all of the weird memes and the jokes and all of that, furry art, it's just character design. It's human emotions wrapped in animal shapes. It's anthropomorphism. It's totemic. It's the Egyptian gods, medieval monsters, Disney, Looney Tunes. All of it's the same instinct. Trying to see yourself in another form. The furry crowd, they just tend to personalize it a little bit more. They use art to explore who they really are, not who the world tells them they need to be. That's not degenerate, that's not deviant, that's just being honest. And to me, that honesty, that's what makes the art fun. Also, let's be honest, it ain't that easy. Drawing furry specifically isn't just doodling cartoon animals. You have anatomy, you have textures, you have expressions, all of that going on at once. And you have to be able to balance bits of cartooning and realism with the personality. You have to make the fur in it look dimensional, but still keep everything emotional without crossing into strange uncanny valley stuff. It's pretty tough work, to be honest. And some of the best cartoonists, digital illustrators, and just overall artists I've ever seen came out of that community. They're constantly creating, constantly improving, because their audience actually supports them. While other freelancers, man, they're drowning in these for exposure offers, furry artists were paying rent, or at least helping pay their rent, because they've built this system that values their creators. They rarely haggle or ghost, and they respect your rates. It's wild how normal that felt in their space, and honestly how rare it feels everywhere else. They built a working art economy based around mutual respect. And let's be honest, that shouldn't be an exception. That should be the rule. Those 2 months taught me that weird, and it's just a label on. People slap that on passion they don't understand. Every creative movement that I've ever really gotten into, they all start out that way. You know, think about it. Tattoos, comic books, fandom. They all got mocked before they mattered. The furry community showed me what happens when weird people stick together and boost each other instead of tearing each other apart. They didn't just help me survive a rough patch. They reminded me of why I make art in the first place. To connect, to express, to keep each other going. So yeah, I went to furry websites halfway as a joke. And those kids turned around and fed my family. They gave me work. They gave me respect and perspective when the world told me, hey, guess what? You're not essential. They taught me that kindness matters more than coolness, and that sincerity is not something to laugh at. And if that's cringe, I guess I'll take cringe over cynical any day. And I think that's a lesson that we all need. So thanks for hanging out with me today. If you want to support the channel and get more behind the scenes stuff, well, I got a Patreon now. It's going to have some sneak peeks, some polls, Discord, all that good stuff. And if you're interested and you want to support, go to patreon.com/MattHenegarArt. If you like the video, hit like, subscribe, all of that stuff. That really does help with the internet overlords knowing what I'm doing and knowing I'm doing something right. And as always, get out there, embrace the suck, make bad art, and I'll see you all next time. All right, bye.